Okay, well, I just recorded 10 minutes of video and it didn't get my voice. So I will try to post these notes that you missed onto Schoology for you guys, for those of you that are watching from home, because I'm recording this an hour before you guys are going to see it, but that stinks. Okay, I'll post these notes on Schoology. So, to go through what we just learned, except if you're watching this lesson from home, we just multiply straight across for these. So this one here, this one is super easy, and this is the extent of work that I would expect you to show for a question like this. That one is super easy, so that's the extent of it. I trust that you guys are going to have some common sense with these, but there are ones that I do want you to show your work. So for this one, I'm going to change the way that -4 looks by doing 2/3 times -4 over 1. I multiply straight across, and it becomes -8/3, which is -2 and 2/3. Make sure you keep those negatives going with it. One of the things that you missed if you're watching from home is multiplying a negative times a positive is going to be negative. And speaking of negative numbers, we have -1/3 times -3/7. So I have a negative times a negative, which means my product is going to be what? Positive. Positive. So for this one here, I have a common factor. So I'm going to reduce by the common factor starting off. Divide that by 3. Divide that by 3. So now I just have 1 times -1. Sorry, -1 times -1 over 1 times 7, which comes out to be just a positive 1/7. Negative times a negative. That's bad. I need to write that differently. -1 times -1. There we go. That's prettier. A little bit prettier. Multiplying mixed numbers. When multiplying a mixed number, you can rename the mixed number as an improper fraction. You can also multiply mixed numbers using the distributive property and mental math. So if you don't recall the distributive property, I don't remember when you had it, probably it was last year, but it could have been one of those situations that during the quarantine you guys weren't able to get to because your lessons were reduced last fourth quarter. So the distributive property says that if I have A times B plus C is the same thing as A multiplied by B plus A multiplied by C. Did I say multiply? Yeah. Sorry, yeah. Because the A is going to distribute because of the parenthesis. So you may have received that if you were in high math last year, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, this one we're going to put it into effect. So with the distributive property, we have find 1/2 times 4 2/5. We're going to write in simplest form. Method 1 is to do a mixed number. That's what we've done in the previous examples. I'm going to make it an improper fraction, which is 4 2/5 becomes 22/5. What we have in red right here is finding a common factor, the greatest common factor of 22 and 2. So I can reduce 22 into 11 by dividing by 2. I divided 2 in the lower left by 2, and it turns into 1. So then I just multiply straight across. 1 times 11, 1 times 5, comes out to be 11/5. We simplify and get 2 and 1/5. I cannot speak today. And here's using the distributive property. So what this is trying to help you guys know is the mixed number 4 2/5, that's the same thing as 4 2/5. It even sounds the same when you say it out loud. 4 2/5 is equal to 4 2/5. So with the distributive property, what we can do is have the 1/2 be outside of the parenthesis for 4 2/5. when we distribute that half, I'm going to rewrite what they did. 1/2 times 4 is 2. 1/2 times 2/5 is 1/5. Comes out to be that. See how the second method is a lot shorter? There's going to be different questions that if you use one, it'll take you a long time. If you use the other, it'll take you less time. But you can use whatever option you want because you're still going to get to the same correct or incorrect answer. It's the same way that if you're driving somewhere, there's a lot of different roads that you can take as long as you still arrive where your destination is. Multiply using these forms. In this situation, we have a whole number. Sorry, we have a mixed number, and we also have a fraction. So there's two different ways of doing this. We're going to try the distribution method because the other way would literally take you 5 times as long. So using distribution, I have 4 1/4 times 8, and I can make that 8 over 1, plus 4/9. Now I know, using mental math, what's 1/4 times 1/8? What's 8 divided by 4? 2. 2. And I have 1/4 and multiply by 4/9. I have a common factor, so I can reduce even before we start. And 1/9. So the answer is 2 1/9. I used reduction and mental math to remember that if I have 1/4 of 8, it's going to be 2. I'm going to use distribution with this one as well. 5 1/3 multiplied by 3. What's 3 times 5? 15. 15. What's 3 over 3 simplified? Just 1. If you have the same number in the numerator and denominator, it's just going to be 1, no matter how big the numerator and denominator is. If they're the same, you're all set. Now this one here, we have 2 mixed numbers. So I don't want to use the distributive property. I'm going to use improper fractions. And if you guys prefer that one, like you did last section, you can use that as much as you want. So I'm going to have 1 times 8 is 8 plus 7 is 15. 15/8 times 2 times 5, or negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. Well, I have the negative outside of it. So I have negative 10 plus the negative 2. I guess I should say 2 times 5 is 10 plus 2 is 12. That number's already negative, so it stays negative. I have common factors in both of these. So I can reduce even before we get started. Divide this by 5, it becomes 1. Divide this by 5, it becomes negative 3. Divide this by 4, becomes negative 3. Divide this by 4, becomes 2. Now this next step I'm going to write, you don't have to write this, but I'm just showing for demonstrative reasons and also people watching at home. Negative 3 times negative 3 over 2 times 1. I have a negative times a negative, so it's going to be a positive 9 over 2, which simplifies to 4.5. 4.5. Positive 4.5. I believe next page maybe? Not sure. Humans sleep about a third of the day. And I want to do this as a friendly reminder. You guys should be getting a consistent sleep schedule. Please, get a consistent sleep schedule. But now at your age, more important than ever. And yeah. You sleep about a third of each day. Let each year equal 365 and a quarter days. It says a quarter days because we don't have exactly 24 hours in a day. That's why we have a leap year every 4 years. Determine the number of days in the year the average human sleeps. So we have 1/3, and we're multiplying it by 365 and a quarter. That's a huge number, and it surprises me that they are doing improper fractions, but that might be easier than doing multiplying 1/3 by 365, but they're still demonstrating this huge number. So we have 1/3 times 365 and a quarter. It's 1/3, and then 365 and a quarter as an improper fraction is 1,461 over 4. They found that there was a greatest common factor of 3 by not using a calculator, which made it 1 over 1 times 487 over 4. So they found that 487 over 4, simplified, is 121 3/4. Therefore, the average human sleeps 121 hours and 121 3/4 hours. Sorry, days. Days in a year. I actually need to read what I'm saying. Days in a year, that's how much. That seems a lot. Seems a lot, but just to put into perspective how much you're actually dozing. Well, not dozing, because some of you try to doze in here. Till I tell you, no. Yeah, slap the desk. That would have been, because that's always good teaching. So, for this one, I did it in Spanish class, yeah. That one had a lot more downtime than we have time for in this class. So for this one, we have 2/3 multiplied by 1/3. That one there. This is the extent of the work that I'll expect you to show on a simple problem like this. That's it. Those are really simple and small fractions. Well, actually large fractions, closer to 1, and it's not a prime number that's higher. Then we have 1/4 negative times negative 8/9. I'm just going to multiply straight across. I am going to rewrite this so we can see it. -1 times -8 over 4 times 9, which becomes a +8 over 36, which divided by 4 comes out to be 2/9 simplified. And I don't like how they have the same answer for only these little bit of questions that we have. 2 in a row. For number 3, I have a mixed number and then another fraction. But since these two don't have a common denominator, even after I might reduce, I'm going to use the improper fraction method. If you did the distribution property, it would take you a lot longer for this. But I have improper fraction. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9/4, times 2/3. I can reduce here. I'm going to show you the reduction method and not reducing method. Divide that by 3. Divide that by 3. Divide this by 2. Oops. Divide this by 2. So now I just have 3/2, which equals 1 1/2. And as I write the answer, I'm double checking to make sure that I didn't miss a negative sign. So that's one way of doing it if I reduced. If I did not reduce, if you choose not to do that, this is what it would look like. I would have 9 times 2, 4 times 3. You don't have to write what I'm writing in black. You do not have to write this. 18/12, which is 1 6/12, which is 1 1/2. See how reducing was a lot less writing? I had one more, actually 2 more simplifications to do if I just reduced before I got started. The height of an object on Mars is about 2/5 Where's my, there it is about 2/5 of the weight on Earth. How much would an 80.5 pound dog weigh on Mars? So I'm going to do 2/5 times 80.5. I'm going to make this an improper fraction. 2/5 times 80 times 2 plus 1 is 161 halves. I can reduce my 2's. Divided by 2 is 1. Divided by 2 is 1. I have 161 over 5. No. Yes. 161 over 5. Now, since I'm not using a calculator, I can just do this. And since I'm using fractions, I'm done. I don't have to go through decimals, thank goodness. So I have 30. What did I do there? 32.5. I did something wrong. 32.5, yeah. That doesn't seem right. Because the remainder of 1. I did it wrong for second period. That's what it was. All right. Last one. How is the process of multiplying fractions different from the process of adding fractions? Well, first off, easier. You don't need common denominators. I do it like this. No, that hurts. You don't need common denominators to multiply. You don't need common denominators to multiply. That's the end of the recording. Your homework is due tomorrow by midnight-ish. Bye.